Do you defeat yourself and you want to stop? Let's talk about it. How many times have we thought of any kind of new endeavor? We need to look for a new job. We want to start a new hobby. We want to call someone we haven't talked to in a long time. We need to do a certain number of marketing efforts for our business, whatever it is. How many times do we stop ourselves from doing the things we need to do by talking ourselves out of it before we even start? We come up with all of the excuses. Well, I want to, I haven't talked to my business contact, Bob, in, several months. Should I call him now? Well, first thing in the morning, he's going to want to be checking his email and getting organized for the day. So this is a bad time, and we literally talk ourselves out of doing the things we need to do for ourselves. Because what happens when we start talking through all of those conditions, we end up getting stuck and we don't do what we're going to do. I'm sure you can think about 100 times that you've done that to yourself. Probably my greatest example, which I may have talked about in a Facebook Live in the past, is when I didn't try out for the baseball team when I was in high school. I'm sure there have been dozens of times since then in my career that, in ways in the last 30 years since I left college that really mattered, that slowed me down in my business growth and in my success in whatever area I was working in. But, let's go back to that moment. I got intimidated when I saw all the varsity guys warming up who were older than me and bigger and seemed to have more skill. I was a kind of a scrawny 10th grader, and they were seniors probably, and they'd been doing this for a couple of years, and they'd had time to grow. I had no idea what I'd look like 2 years later as an 18-year-old. All I could think of is, I'm not like these guys. I don't have the skill these guys have. I'll never make it. Why should I even bother? Why waste my time? And I quit. I quit before I even started because I talked myself out of it. A great example, when I was a film producer, a video producer, my goal was to produce videos for nonprofit organizations. And it was a time that video was really coming online for people to be promoting themselves, for organizations to really have, every organization kind of needed an organization video to sort of put themselves on the map, just as kind of like an ante, as like the coin of the realm. It almost was like they weren't anywhere if they didn't have their own video. And my goal was to create a kind of low budget option for nonprofit organizations that didn't have a lot of money. And as I started getting into this, any organization that was interested, had to get over kind of the sticker shock because it was something they hadn't really been budgeting for. And I thought of the idea of, what if I could finance it? What if I could figure out, they don't have to pay me the full amount. They had to pay it to me maybe over the course of a year or 6 months or 2 years. And I talked to a friend of mine who was, a really good business guy, and he was kind of a mentor. He's my father's age. And I asked him, what do you think? And he said, well, it's an interesting idea. It certainly makes it affordable for organizations that don't necessarily have the money. It's like the way we buy a car. We can't afford a car, or even more, we can't buy a house if we had to put down the, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars it costs to buy a house, depending on where you're living. So we buy it and we pay it off in installments. And he said, the problem is if someone doesn't pay you back, then you have to sue a nonprofit. And who wants to do that? And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. Why would I want to do that? Well, that was a great way to talk myself out of what might have been a really good business edge. Because the truth is, how many nonprofits would default? And you know what? If one or two did, and I got 10 jobs out of it, okay, maybe that's worth the price of doing business. The truth is, I didn't know because I never tried. Maybe it would have been a complete disaster, but we don't know because I never tried. So there's no data. So one of the first things we have to do to understand how to stop this is to understand why we do it in the first place. And I would say 100% of the time, I'd put cash money down on it, it's because we're scared. It's because anything we want to do involves risk. And whenever we're risking, we're putting ourselves on the edge of doing something we've never done before, or on the edge of what's uncomfortable. Risk means discomfort. Risk means you're off balance. Risk means you don't know what the outcome will be, and that means it could go well or it could end badly. Think of yourself on, on a ropes course, and you've got to jump from one platform to another, and you've never leapt that far in the past. You've got to make the leap. Are you going to make it? Worst case scenario, on a ropes course, you're tied up. You've got safety gear on you, a helmet. The worst thing that happens is you're going to end up hanging in the air, and they're going to have to kind of pendulum you over to the other side. You're not going to get hurt. The first time I ever went rock climbing, I had to learn to trust the rope, that I could try and make a move or a grab that I might not succeed in, because if I slipped, the rope would hold me. And as soon as I had my first slip and fall and realized the rope was there, my fear was gone. And now it was just excitement. And I could take that next step and move to, the next little step, whatever it took, so that I could keep climbing up that rock. But I had to trust the rope. But it started with me knowing that I was on that edge. I was at that moment of discomfort where I could either climb or fall. That's what we're doing in our lives when we're on that moment where we're talking ourselves out of doing something. We're on that edge where we could either climb or fall. And it's so much easier to stay comfortable. It's so much easier to say, you know what, I'm good. I've climbed up half the rock. I don't have to go anymore. Or you know what, I'm good here on the sand. I don't have to watch you guys climb the rock. I'll keep belaying for the rest of you. That's the person who holds the rope at the bottom to make sure that the climber stays safe. That's a way for us to feel like we're doing something, and we're doing something really important. We're keeping our climbing partner really safe, but we're also not really risking ourselves. So that's really what it comes down to. It's easier to stay comfortable and to stay safe. And really what that means is to stay small than it is to risk. Why do I stay small? Why do I say stay small? Because whenever we are taking a risk, we are doing something bigger than ourselves. We are reaching beyond the space that we have previously inhabited. We're looking into a realm of life that we've never been to before. That's why it's risky. And the minute we look into that realm, we get bigger. Even if it's just a little bit. And even if we're just talking about a very small thing, like picking up the phone and calling someone we haven't talked to in a long time. If it's an old friend, that's an easier phone call than it is to pick up the phone and try and network to find a new job, or to make a cold call to develop our business, or to make a lukewarm call to someone we've talked to but maybe have never discussed our business with before. That's the risk, and it's easier to just sort of stay small and okay, ho-hum, I'll just be where I am. So that's the number one thing. So if we can catch ourselves in that self-defeating loop where we hear ourselves talking ourselves out of doing the thing, then can we slow it down and say, okay, what am I really afraid of? Or even without even that analysis, maybe that isn't even necessary. Maybe all we need to say is, okay, I'm talking myself out of doing this because I'm scared. All right, I'm risking something. Can I feel the fear and do it anyway? Can I take the risk and just figure out what's the next indicated action? What's the small step I can do just to break out of my comfort zone a little bit? And what would that look like? And maybe it is an intermediary step. Maybe we don't want to, okay, it's too scary to pick up the phone and call Bob and see how he's doing. We haven't talked in 6 months. I can send him an email and just say, Bob, checking in. How are you doing? I'd love to have a phone call. What's a good time? At least we've taken a baby step. What it means is, and in one of my other Facebook lives, I talked about how to eat an elephant, which the bottom line on that is one bite at a time. And that's the idea of breaking big tasks up into smaller steps that are incrementally achievable. Let's take the thing we're scared of, and how do we break it down to do something that is accomplishable and not so big that we're terrified from it and that we're going to discourage ourselves and talk ourselves out of it. That's the incremental way to do it. I want to just throw out something completely opposite and not the incremental way. And this is the other idea of stacking discomfort. Remember, if I said that the moment when we're moving out of our comfort zone into something risky and dangerous is the moment when we're growing, the moment we're exposing ourselves to a bigger version of ourselves, then there's also the possibility that if we stack the discomfort and we do a ton of things we're uncomfortable with, we'll get used to that feeling of discomfort. And as a result of that, we'll grow faster and further than we ever would before. So there's that idea that we can actually stack up the things. You know what? I'm so afraid of calling one person. I'm going to call 5. I'm going to go through my Rolodex and my phone book and call 5 people I haven't talked to in the last 6 months. People I know, friends of mine, people, that's stacking your discomfort. It's almost, doing the opposite in spades. So there's a couple techniques. So think about when you are finding yourself in that loop where you're talking yourself out of something that you want to do. Oh, I'll never, I don't want to start an exercise plan because I'll get tired of it. It'll get boring. I might get hurt, and I never really can keep it up anyway. Right? I just talked myself into sitting back on the couch, tuning into another Netflix show and eating more Doritos. That's me living in comfort. But if I say to myself, all right, I'll do the incremental step. I don't need to create a whole exercise plan today. I just need to take a 20-minute walk. That's one step, one thing we can do, the incremental. The other one is to stack the discomfort and say, okay, I'm going to call 5 people from my phone book today. Or I'm not only just going to do a 20-minute walk today, I'm going to come back and do a stretch afterwards as well. And in that, we're making it accessible. We're actually challenging ourselves, and either we're owning the discomfort, we're owning that edge between where we're comfortable and where we want to be, and we're going to go into it gently and tentatively, one step at a time, and get that reward that we experience when we cross that line and we look back and say, oh, that wasn't so bad. Good for me. I think I can take another step. Or we make a great leap. It's up to you. The challenge is you got to want to stop first. You got to want to get out of talking yourself into your own defeat before you even start the battle. And if you want to stop, then you got to just jump into it and either take a baby step or stack your discomfort, but look for the ways you win when you stop defeating yourself. Thanks for watching. Go ahead and like this and leave comments. If you get a minute, check out my YouTube page, Mark Rothman Progress Coach. I hit 100 subscribers last month. I want to hit another 100 to get to 200 in February. And look forward to talking to you again next Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific time.